So I have been musing lately, of late, about, and I've spoken to several of you about it because it keeps coming up in all of these different ways, um, about just the similarities that occur between traditions and belief systems, and not even just the similarities, the inception of, the original intent of, the place where whatever divine inspiration and guidance came, it came down with some order and structure that was assimilated. And it was assimilated in across this vast cosmos, or at least the planet we know of, in different regions at different times under different names. And based on what those needs, I suppose, were in that timeline and in that area, the structure adapted. And then it concretized itself, and man got very involved, and it became something, and we call it different things. But when we really strip it back down to the tap roots, I just love, this is why mysticism is so powerful, because it taps into ritual and the form underneath of what the form is that we've given it, to the unseen that is arising through these different traditions and through the structures. I'm specifically intrigued by, I think most of you all know that I'm leaving for Egypt on Monday, and I've been studying the temples that I'm going to in Egypt and the architecture of them. And I read about how they're set up with a certain orientation to a certain direction, so many degrees this way. It's set up by the longitude and latitude. It's set up by the time of when the sun comes and how it comes into certain aspects of the building. And I think this is exactly how the Devi temple was set up in India. This is a Vedic. I'm like, that's Vedic, but here it is Egyptian. And the same principles of cosmos, where we interact with the alignment of the cosmos, with the elements and with the directions, and with this not even unspoken, it's quite well known, grid of how we are a part of the whole. And it's happening in all these different places. So I'm so intrigued by it. But the one place that what I'm also intrigued by is how we take, I don't want to say hijack, it's too strong of a word, but how we take the language or a title or something, a word, and then we give it our own meaning as it serves us. So the place I want to talk about that today is around mindfulness. So we talk a lot about, it's just, it has become a grocery store word. Everybody, you want to be mindful, mindfulness. Every doctor's office now has a little pamphlet, how to practice mindfulness, utilizing meditation and mindfulness. It's a catchword. It's part of our Western vernacular that we use very freely without necessarily having any real understanding of where it came from and what the inherent meaning of it is. So in our general way of understanding it, it means to pay attention, being mindful, to notice that which is going on around us, bring us into the present moment, out of the monkey mind of moving into other places, and having non-judgment, if we can, to just receive and accept that which is happening in the moment around us and to notice it. It's really helpful for us to use mindfulness because many of us find that we're, all the time, you're driving somewhere and you don't even really know how you got there. You weren't even that mindful of it. I mean, I think given your travels that you're doing, you have to practice mindfulness, even if it wasn't your nature, because everything's new. So if you're not paying attention, you get lost. You don't know where you are. You don't know which street I went down. You don't know where I'm returning to. So when we're in unfamiliar situations, we have to call mindfulness into our journey. But when we're in familiar places, we drop it. And we just go about whatever route we're usually going, whatever we know normally happens in the situation. We just assume that's the way it is. So typical mindfulness, we attach to it typical disciplines that include pranayama and following your body's, the feelings in your body. And we try to bring this into not just your sitting meditation, but we say you can do this, square breath when you're standing in the grocery store line. You can do it everywhere. So we try to bring it into everyday life, not make it just a sitting on the cushion practice, but make it the practice in your life so that we're in the present moment as much as possible. We can And we do bring it into walking meditations, eating mindfully, doing body scans, which we do, all of these ways that we are trying to practice being in the state of mindfulness. And so why am I talking about this? Well, I've said because we're always tweaking and adding and rearranging our spiritual discipline. We're constantly saying, here's another micro practice. Here's another way. Try this pranayam. Let's add, what if we chanted this? What if we keep looking at these different ways to bring in something that helps us be more mindful? So as I look at these nuances across traditions and I see where this is happening, not just in our Sangha, but it's happening in traditions where there's always a little edge. But what I'm noticing is that underneath of this, when we look at what really was the original intention and the aim of a spiritual discipline, there's a really big difference in mindfulness. So it turns out that mindfulness is simply a like an umbrella for different practices. And one of the practices within that many of you have practiced and heard about is Vipassana. So both mindfulness and Vipassana are similar in that they call in body scans and learning to sit with how things are and to sit quietly and to pay attention. But the difference in them that I want to point out that I think is so powerful is that Vipassana is a practice to see the truth of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. So it ties the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path together, the Buddhist journey. It's about a deeper understanding of our humanness in connection to the cosmos. It's not just about being mindful, noticing the pretty flowers around us, which is also very important and a lovely practice. It's the practice of moving, as Karen was talking about, taking care of her aunt and uncle in the end of their life. It's about understanding impermanence and how we move from health to unhealth and how we return back to health and how we have a piece of that process in ourselves. And that it, of course, includes non-judgment and it includes practices of being in the moment, but it includes our intention and our willingness and our willfulness and our desire to touch into something underneath of that, into the truth of reality, paying close attention to what's happening between our mind and our body and our emotions and our thoughts, because this leads us to understand what we're really working with, but it doesn't necessarily take us back to what is our intention with this practice. So the practice of mindfulness has a really beautiful intention: stay present and learn how to maybe stop some judgment and don't trip over the uneven step that you hadn't noticed because you weren't paying attention. Don't get lost going down a street that you don't know and can't figure out, park your car. How many times have you parked your car in a large parking lot and gone back out and can't remember where you put it? Because you've parked a lot of times in that parking lot and you weren't paying attention when you got out of that car in this day. So mindfulness is very helpful for our general movement, but it isn't actually, in the truest sense of the Buddhist teachings, the underlying desire to actually understand the reality of being in this form and how that form bumps up against formlessness. That's a much more powerful practice. That doesn't mean we have to practice it or it's your interest or your goal. But when we start to understand the nuances between what was originally intended by a practice or a discipline or a tradition and how we have kind of culled it down. So in the West, the reason that this happened, which is so interesting, when Vipassana was brought from Southeast Asia over to the West, this is a very science-based culture. And the science-based culture was not that interested in all the ritual that went with that practice in the Buddhist tradition. So we took away some of that ritual and made it a little tidier, easier to access. Just pay attention, be mindful. So that's fine and it's great, but we need to understand underneath of that was a much more powerful practice that it was like it got boiled down, into something else. And how do we, in our great intelligence and our desire to be in the deepest part of a practice, how do we actually stay connected to that? So in the Vipassana practice and this intention, to be deeply relational, this relationality to the cosmos, there's a building of what in the Vedic terms we would call the Shakti. And this is done, there's a connection to the truth beyond the seen world. And this is done through the rituals. So this is why we keep bringing up rituals, and we try to tie rituals in whenever possible, because in Buddhism, at the heart of the practice is a ritualistic understanding of our relationship, because it's a vibrational connection to the cosmos and to the divine and our purest nature. So Buddhist meditation was not meant to be uniquely individual. It wasn't about, am I being present in my day as I walk around? It wasn't meant for that. That's not what Buddha talked about. Buddha talked about the broader picture of humanness within the cosmos. He was teaching his followers to relate. They were working towards nirvana. They were working towards being liberated. It wasn't just about, am I going to have a nice day and be able to get to wherever I left my rickshaw? It was a much bigger process that he was offering to them, which the teachers of the tantric tradition, if you look at tantrism in the Vedic tradition, if you look at any of the taproot traditions, they were not just looking about having a good day. It was a much more powerful teaching, much more powerful. So I mention that because the mystical traditions lead us back in our private practice to pretty much to the same thing. And that's the practice of using an altar. And I don't think I'm revealing anything too personal when I say that everywhere City goes, she sets up an altar. I've seen her go. I've traveled around the world with her. I've seen her go into the tiniest of spaces, and she carries with her, and all of the things that she carries on her back with her, she carries a small altar with her. And I don't know her exact practices when she's alone with that altar and how she connects, but that connects her to this deeper, more mystical connection with the divine and with the realm around us, not just the practice. She has a very deep and powerful practice of meditation and pranayama and chanting and all of these other things. But there's an altar, and I see her in her wisdom. Just in a walk, she'll pick up a flower that's just dropped off of a tree or a plant as we walk, that's very fresh and looking lovely, but it's just fallen, and she'll carry that little offering back and put it on her altar. She doesn't even have to go to the store and buy some fresh flowers and cut them up and arrange them. That she saw the cosmos offered me this little offering, and I'm taking it to my altar because I'm connected to the deeper reality of myself within the relationship of the cosmos. That's what we're being brought back to. It's so much more powerful than just a personal practice. It opens up the movement between things, not just within things. It connects us in a different way. So if you don't have an altar, which, I'm constantly harping on this, if you don't have an altar, it doesn't need to be big. It can be an altar that fits on a handkerchief. That's your base for it. It's a little handkerchief that maybe your father gave you or your grandfather gave you, and it sits wherever you go. And I used to keep an altar in my kitchen, on my kitchen counter, because that's where I spent all my time, because I had 3 children. I was in the kitchen all the time. I kept my altar there, and the kids would walk by it, and I would change, and they would put rocks on it. If they were out and they found a little rock, they'd put a rock on it. They'd bring it back. Mommy, I found this for your altar. So I taught them. It doesn't have to be a beautiful, quiet, alone space that's got deities on it and all of these different things. It was what was brought to us by the natural world in that day. I would light that lamp every single morning. And I would have that little tiny, but it was in front of my cookbooks. It was on a little ledge this big. It was small. But if we invoke that relationship and we request that relationship with ourselves and the cosmos, we're going to a deeper way of communing in this lifetime, and a deeper access to healing, to understanding, to non-judgment, to all of those things that we're working towards in beautiful ways by being mindful. It's beautiful. If you want the radical transformation, then you connect to the cosmos. If you want to have a nice journey and just clean up your life a little bit, then you connect to the mindfulness. Beautiful. No judgment about it. You have to ask yourself, what's my intention with this lifetime? What am I hoping to do? Where do I want to go? Do I want deep healing on all different levels? I want to connect to the cosmos, because that's where the healing is. It's not in me just walking around and being mindful. That's lovely. That calms our system. It brings down the stress. It creates a whole ambiance inside your own ecosystem. Fabulous. But it's not the ultimate connection with the divine, with the unseen world. Step into the unseen. Make sure you have an altar, a traveling altar, a home altar, whatever, that you bring whatever the cosmos is giving to you in the day, whether it's a little flower that you've picked up or a rock or a pine cone, whatever you've come across. Those offerings from the cosmos are to remind you you're in connection and in community with something bigger than we are. So let's not get trapped in the smallness of our nature. Let's expand into the largeness of our nature because it's more fun and it has more power for us. And that's, power in the most beautiful way of the word, not in, you know what I mean, in the most beautiful way of the world. So let's use that as our intention this week, to be in observance and awareness of not only what's happening around us, but our connectedness to the larger piece, to the cosmos, to the intricate nature and design that was handed down to humanity through whatever deity understanding of divinity you have in your relationship to that was handed down thousands and thousands and millennium ago and keeps repeating itself with different language. Let's not get stuck in the language. Let's get stuck in the ritual because it will reconnect us. Have a beautiful week. Okay, Miss City, I'm turning it over to you, altar lady.
My space. Because I can't even stretch out my arms. So this was is a very, very extremely old building I'm in, and the rooms are absolutely just elegant and sweet and super tiny. This is all I have here to work with today, but it's fun. I like it. I like for us to just sit on the edge of our chairs or sofas or beds, feet solid on the ground. And then just let us take our fingertips and tap our skull. And you can go to the side of your ears, the back of your head. Just move the fingertips. As if you're tapping, awakening your brain, stimulating hair growth, so to speak. Go also into your neck, to activate your little brain stem. Say good morning. The brain stem will fire up into the brain when it's awake and present. Over your ears. Slowly back up to the hairline. And then gently come to your forehead and just tap your forehead. The temples. Relax your breathing. Just play with this a little bit. Now we're creating a lot of awakening. We activate the neurons beneath our skin. And then we come to our cheekbones. We're tapping our cheeks, our chin, back to the cheekbones. Good. Now rub your hands rigorously. Really, you want to create a lot of heat. And then place the heels of your hands over your eyes. 2 more times. Rub. And place your heels of your hands. Good. 1 more time. This is really healing for our eyes. Good. Now we do the same with our ears. Two more times. I hope you can hear me. You might even hear the frequency and the vibration you create in your hands when you cover your ears. It's quite amazing. Good. And then bring your hands onto your tummy below your belly button. Sweep your hands up over your chest. Right hand goes over to your left shoulder. Sweep down on the inside of your left arm. We did this before, just a nice awakening of the meridians. Then turn your left hand around. Sweep up. And be in touch, especially with those body parts you're a little, judgmental about. Go to the other side. Touch the back of your right hand, come on. And then come back down. We do this 2 more times. We sweep up. And feel the curves in your body, the softness. So feel your body is your lover. That's how you treat yourself right now. How would you like to be touched, or how would you like to touch? The body receives all the signals, all our thoughts, our feelings. And how often do we stand in front of the mirror and the thoughts and feelings are not very lovely towards our body? Good. One more time. Up, over to the right. Switch. You're often not aware, but the neural activity in our skin is heightened right now. And we come back below our belly button. Take 3 deep breaths here. Breathe into your hands. Exhale towards your spine. Then now sweep up again over your chest. Come to your neck. Go behind your ears, the top of your head. Then sweep down in front of your face. Back down to your chest. Now bring your hands to the side of your body. Bring the hands onto your kidneys in the back. Lean a little bit forward. And then sweep down on the outside of your legs. All the way down to your ankles. Sweep over the top of your feet. And then come to the inside of your feet, your ankles, lower legs, inside of your knees, your thighs. You come back to your navel. Take 3 deep breaths here. We sweep up again. We're stimulating all the 12, 14 meridians. Sweep over. Now we sweep in front of the face, over our head, behind the ears, side of our neck, side of our body, touching our kidneys, our back region, lower back, a little bit of our butt cheeks, and the outside of our legs. Top of our feet, inside of our legs. And then come back below your belly button. Take 3 deep breaths. We will repeat it one more time. Your body is receiving a lot of love from you this morning. Good. Sweep up. Front of your face. Top of your head. Behind your ears. Side of your neck. Your back, your kidneys. Adrenal glands. Sweep down the side of your leg. Can come up on the inside. Feel the warmth of your hands. Feel everything that you're doing right now and come back to your hara, to your real center inside of you. Take a few breaths here. Now we open our eyes. We have our arms forward. We bring them back. We arch our spine. Exhale, round your spine and the forearms touch and the outside of your pinkies. Inhale, open. Arch. Exhale. This way we catch the front and the back meridian. The ones who manage the other 12. Feel the stretch over your upper back. Last 4 repetitions. Last 2. Last 1. Good. Rest your hands back onto your hara. 3 deep breaths. Step your left foot a little bit out to the side. Extend your right leg. Right foot is flexed. Take your hands onto the outside of your right leg and then slide down as far as you can. Exhale, going down. Keep that foot flexed. Inhale up. And stretch the back of your legs. Last 4. Let's do 1 more. And then we'll repeat on the other side. The right foot onto the ground, left foot flex, left leg is straight, and repeat the same. Exhale, forward. Inhale. It's 3 repetitions. Inhale. And exhale, hands back onto your heart. 3 deep breaths. Straighten your spine. Tuck your chin. Bring your head slightly back.